Hey you, welcome to my channel, A Year and a Day. My name is Jenny and these past few months were, well, not months, I was on top of things. The weather was nothing but grey and rainy and I was very low on energy, dragging myself towards Christmas break for weeks and weeks. I constantly felt as if I was battling some sort of cold that was going around, until it finally caught up with me and I started 2024 with the flu. To top it all off, I started therapy in November, and any energy I had left has been going into that process. As a person who has been struggling with my own mental health since I was a kid, I am a big supporter of therapy. But it is by no means a magic wand that you swing around to solve all of your problems. It is an intense process of stirring up trauma and issues and triggers and emotions, sitting in it all, and finally coming out the other side, hopefully a little wiser and therefore a little stronger. To spare my energy, I had to adjust my activities a bit in November, December and January and make some decisions on what to prioritize. Also, I have the tendency to use my journaling and tarot practice to analyze and rationalize every single challenge I come across. And therapy challenged me to make a little bit more space for the emotional side of things. What that meant for me was spending less time with my journals and cards and spending more time meditating and letting things be. I also allowed myself to recharge with low-key activities such as crochet, sewing and video games. And before I knew it, it was almost February. So let's not waste any more time and go to the table to check out some of the things that I loved in November, December and January. Let's start with a little crochet. I started crochet about 13 years ago now, and it was my first ever true crafty love. But it is also utterly and completely my kryptonite. When crocheting, I will go in complete hyperfocus and I will forget to eat, drink and move. And I won't stop until my hand is a claw and my back is completely crooked. It caused chronic pain in my neck and shoulders about a decade ago and I had to give it up eventually. It was only last summer that I was brave enough to give it another try. And it has been so much fun, especially when I found out how many cool patterns there are out there nowadays. Not just for blankets or amigurumi, but also for wearables. So, this summer I crocheted this lovely bohemian top that I will never wear in public. And these past few months I have also crocheted my first 2 sweaters. This fun ripple sweater I am wearing. And this fun tweed bobble stitch sweater in a color called Carrot Cake. It has been a challenge to limit my time crocheting to protect my body, but the fact that I can crochet again makes me oh so happy. I will leave the patterns and yarn I use down below. In January, I also spontaneously decided that I was ready to create my first wearable on the sewing machine. And so I made this oversized blouse with a cute Peter Pan collar. After practicing on doll's clothes, creating a human-sized blouse was much less intimidating, and the pattern I chose came with an easy-to-follow video tutorial. I will leave a link to it down below and cannot wait to see what else I will be able to create in 2024. Next up are video games. In these past few months I gained a lot. I love discovering new, smaller, cozy games you can pick up for half an hour or so. And the Nintendo Switch is perfect for that. I will quickly go through some of my favorites. Never Alone is a lovely game set in the Arctic Circle, focusing on native lifestyle and mythology. Throughout the game you will unlock little documentaries explaining the stories and origins of the development in the game. I absolutely loved learning more about this culture that is so far from my home, and it was truly the heart of the game for me. Hidden Through Time got me completely hooked. It is basically an interactive Where's Waldo, where you have to look for things in a scene set somewhere throughout history. In addition, you can also build your own maps, although I haven't tried that out yet. I wasn't able to put this one down and got through the game and all the add-ons in an alarmingly short amount of time. And the best part? Hidden Through Time 2, Myths and Magic is out now. A Monsters Expedition is a puzzle game where you have to get a little monster from island to island by moving tree trunks. It's a super simple concept, but the graphics are delightful and the puzzles were so much fun. With over 700 puzzles to complete, you will not get bored easily. Although I will admit the puzzles get more and more challenging, which can lead to some frustration. Witchwood is a bit of a fetch quest adventure game about a little witch trying to break a curse by collecting souls. I had so much fun with this one. The game is beautifully illustrated and there's just enough gameplay to keep it from being boring or repetitive. And the last one I'd like to mention is Terra Nil, in which you are responsible for restoring a barren wasteland to its former glory, introducing vegetation and wildlife. It's a very relaxing game with very relaxing music and sounds. The biggest downside of this game for me was the fact that they are trying to make it a bit too realistic, which can get a bit frustrating. You basically get assigned a random landscape, have to complete objectives and then get the hell out of there. And I will tell you, if I would have been able to easily adjust and build the landscapes, creating mountains, lakes and rivers, and the perfect habitats for the animals, it would easily have added 50 plus hours of the amount of time I would have spent in this game. But I love the concept and it was a lot of fun playing this one. So those were a few of my favorites from these past few months. I will link them down below. But remember, the Nintendo eShop has regular sales, with games sometimes costing just a few euros. So if you want to collect as much games as possible for a small price, keep an eye out for those sales before buying. Let's move on to books. For Christmas, I decided to put some illustrated children's books on my wishlist. Godfather Death is another book illustrated by Julia Sarda. And for these past few months, I have kind of been on a mission to collect her books. I really appreciate her drawing style and use of colors. And the quality of these hardcover editions is really nice. The Queen in the Cave was both written and illustrated by Julia Sarda. So I loved adding this one to my little collection. Home by Carson Ellis is a lovely book about all the places that can be called home. Flock by Gemma Koeman is all about the adventures of tiny tree keepers. If only more of these super talented illustrators would create their own oracle and tarot decks, it would be such a dream. For decks, let's start with a few random mass market decks I got in these past few months. I was able to pre-order the Floating World Tarot for a small price and decided to give it a try. The bright, happy colors caught my attention, and I love the idea of a Japanese-themed deck. But although I do really appreciate the illustrations, I found the guidebook to be pretty disappointing. Don't get me wrong, it's a perfectly fine guidebook. However, there is zero mention of Japanese traditions, mythology, yokai, or anything that would have been relevant and interesting to mention in relation to a Japanese-themed tarot deck. So even though it's a lovely deck with bright colored illustrations, it was also a bit of a letdown. And that's the Floating World Tarot. The Tarot Landscapes was another super affordable deck I decided to try out. I love the idea of a landscape deck to use for pathworking, and the illustration style and colors are so soft and sweet. I'm not sure yet if this is a deck that I will use a lot, but for now I am happy to give it a try. And that's the Tarot Landscapes. I was happy to add the Seasons of the Witch in bulk edition to my collection. And although Imbolc is traditionally celebrated on February 1st to celebrate the beginning of spring, I loved using it during the dark winter months. The folksy illustrations are great to pair with many decks in my collection. And in general, I really love to match decks with certain seasons. And that's the Seasons of the Witch in bulk edition. For some reason I decided I really needed a linen edition of the Rider-Waite-Smith in my collection. So I ordered the 1909 Roses and Lilies linen edition by Conrad Stein from Make Playing Cards. I now use my Centennial RWS as a study deck, while this linen version is perfect to use for readings. The color scheme is lovely, and as expected, the linen cardstock is a dream to shuffle. And that's the 1909 Roses and Lilies RWS linen edition by Conrad Stein. And speaking of the Rider-Waite-Smith, I realized I never showed this adorable mini edition I found secondhand a while back, so here it is now. It is the Traveler's Tarot, a vintage 1975 mini edition of the RWS Blue Box. There is just something about these old vintage decks that is so special, and I'm sure I will treasure this one for years to come. Let's move on to indie decks, starting with the illustrated edition of the Somnia Tarot. Although I do not own the Somnia Tarot, I have always really admired the artistry of the photographs and the sheer amount of work that must have gone into them. The photographs themselves feel heavy and haunted, which is exactly the reason why I was not sure if I would ever actually use the deck. But the illustrated edition is right up my alley. From the illustration style to the font to the quality of the packaging, this one is truly a gem. I also love how it comes with a little guidebook. And I'm very happy I decided to add this one to my collection. And that's the illustrated edition of the Somnia Tarot. Last but not least is the Forgotten Legends Tarot. This one traveled all the way from Kazakhstan, and although the box did not quite survive the trip, the cards are absolutely beautiful. The artwork comes straight out of a fairy tale book, and I am so happy I came across this beautiful deck. It also makes me realize I want to be even more mindful about what to bring into my collection in 2024. I am still ordering super affordable mass market decks, mainly because the price is too good to pass on. And even though I really enjoy trying out new decks and enjoying the artwork in person, I would like to try and focus more on bringing in decks that truly spark joy. And the Forgotten Legends Tarot definitely sits in that category for me. And it's the Forgotten Legends Tarot. And that's it. Those were some of the things I loved in November, December and January. These past few months were all about taking little steps forward towards healing and towards finding some inner peace. At the same time, I am still so all over the place, and it's so easy to constantly feel like a failure in my real life, but also when it comes down to this little channel. My plans and ambitions are constantly being sidetracked by my real life journey. And my struggle with balancing wanting to share and connect while also being a private hermit continues. So to all of you following along, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for watching, for liking, for subscribing, and for leaving such lovely comments. Please know I appreciate you being here and spending your time with me. And with all of that being said, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!